Welcome to the Inviting Shift podcast. I'm so glad that you've returned to listen to another episode, and this one is going to be delicious. I want you to meet Dr. Marcia Martin. She's going to join us on the show today, and she's going to talk to us about how this midlife journey doesn't always look like we think it should, and how we start taking off the masks of all the things that people have expected from us and step deeper into who we truly are and how we uncover that. So Dr. Marcia Martin is also known as the Heart Healer, a spiritual empowerment counselor, and she works with people to heal the past pain and the trauma so that you'll be able to establish, maintain healthy relationships with yourself and others so you can live a successful life. I'm so excited about this conversation because this is what midlife looks like when we take the masks off. Well, podcasters, welcome Dr. Marcia Martin to our Inviting Shift show.
Thanks so much, Christina. I am delighted to be here and so excited about the topic that we're going to share today.
Me
So,
too. Me
thank you
too.
so much for this wonderful platform.
Oh, of course. Yes. When I talked to you, I just knew there was some really specific topics that I just love that somebody else wants to talk about with me and be open about some of the things that we've been talking about. So just to get into it, I want to know, what is it that you do and how did you get this journey to getting there? I'm always interested in how people get to where they're going, especially when they're really enjoying what they do.
Well, I took the long and winding road and made as many detours as I possibly could because I just wasn't satisfied with getting there quickly. So,
The
I
hard
got
way
to
is
tell
always the best way, right?
I got to tell everybody, don't give up. If you're feeling discouraged, I made it. It took me a really long time, but I made it to a place of joy from a place of quiet desperation. And it has been the best journey that I could possibly go on,
Mm,
even though it was long and circuitous and very frustrating. I am using everything I learned today. So there's always a reason. And we just have to be more willing to go on the journey instead of constantly needing to understand where it's going. So there
mm,
is an element of trust that's absolutely necessary. And you're not going to feel as though you can trust yourself. You're not going to feel that you have divine support. You're going to feel lost, all alone, and confused. Do it anyway,
mm,
because whether we are aware of it or not, we are always supported by the energetic realm. And the more that we are willing to just move, the more they're able to direct us. So don't be afraid to get it wrong. Don't be afraid to do something that seems ridiculous. Just don't allow yourself to stay stuck. Be an explorer. Be
mm.
okay with experimenting. And no, none of us got it right the first time. I still make mistakes and am now deeply grateful for them.
Mm. So what I'm hearing is, at least what what I'm getting the message because of my journey and my experience, is this piece of we could have a vision and allow it to be flexible is what I have learned in my life, right? Like, have the vision, but if the divine or your inner wisdom or whatever suddenly goes, I know we're going down to room 400, but right here, I want to go in the music room real quick, right? And or whatever that other path is, so that we can be open to that. Because it sounds like you, I love to choose the hard way instead of or I have in the past anyway. I'm really trying my best to be aligned with what's best for me now instead of what I should do, what is the next thing that I'm supposed to do. And I know that a lot of us get that. And many of my podcasters are midlife. So they're just getting to this point where they're like, hold on, I don't have to do what I'm supposed to do or should do or do the thing the hard way, right? I can take the easy way if I want. I can find the way that flows best with me, which I think is really exciting.
And so important. I think we've got to remember that if you don't scratch that creative itch, if you don't allow yourself to explore to some degree, life is just going to feel very unsatisfying.
Mm,
And so, let's give ourselves a challenge. Let's agree that we're not going to do anything that doesn't bring you joy.
mm,
And that means you're still going to have to figure out elements of joy in everything that you do. So you can't stop doing the things that you need for to sustain you or for your family life or your children or whatever it may be. But instead of approaching them as though they are burdens, let's look at them as this has the potential to bring me joy if I am willing to open up to that possibility and take another route getting there. So it would be interesting to see if we just said, okay, I'm going to live my life and I have to search for all of the ways this mundane task brings me joy. How much would we be able to open to a whole new way of being? And
mm.
that's what I have discovered is it's really about joy. It's not about dotting the I's. It's never about crossing the T's. It is joy, finding what's right within whatever it is that you are needing to do.
That's really beautiful. I love that because sometimes people think when we talk about, oh, you should be focused on joy, like that means like suddenly we avoid doing the hard things. But it's not that we avoid doing the hard things. Like if I want to build my own business and part of that is speaking in front of big groups of people, and that scares me. It doesn't mean that I don't do that. It's that I find the joy because maybe I look at it a different way. My mission is getting out to all of these people. I'm going to have an impact on all of these people. And that's what I truly want. There's the joy. Even though the speaking in front of a big group might make me nervous or might feel like a hard thing, there is joy behind that because there is a reason or a purpose, just like you were saying, that we're doing it. Like, I don't like doing dishes, but the dishes need to get cleaned. We can't have animals running through the house,
Right.
right?
Right. I mean, do we want to live with the consequence of not doing it? No. So in the past, my motivation was always, well, I have to.
Mm,
But now I'm trying to say, I want to. I choose to. I want what comes at the end. I want the goal. And so I'm going to find ways to make that getting to the goal enjoyable. Because the rest of my life was lived with a lot of drudgery. And really, the more that I spend time walking with the divine and being in the presence of the energetic angelic realm, the more I realize they don't do anything out of obligation or drudgery. They are joyful beings of love, and it everything feels good. So it takes a lot of the weight out of a challenge when you are finding the ways in which it feels good, the ways in which it is furthering you towards your goal, and the ways in which you see yourself prospering. And prosperity is not just money, it is feeling good, being surrounded by loved ones, having something that really inspires you. So there's so much more to life that we can enjoy when we really allow ourselves to connect with our inner being and open up to the greater help that's available.
yeah, I truly believe that. And you're talking to someone who's I don't think I call myself atheist, more like an agnostic. Like I'm not sure what's out there. I'm sure there's something. There's an energy that's out there that we all have access to. And what I'm hearing is it's about being aligned to that, right? So whether we look at that as our own intuition or inner wisdom or being divinely guided, whatever that so like I think that we all feel it at some point, right? That's what I want to I want to get to is we all feel this energy and we know when we're in the flow and kind of in the space of that we're supposed to be in, or those times that, some of us who want to do things the hard way, we're like fighting against the flow, right? We can feel that, and that's a difference. And I love what you said about prosperity. We had another speaker on that said it's just being resourced, whether that's being resourced with time, energy, love, like you said, whatever that abundance is, that's what prosperity is about. It's not just about our, bank account numbers. And I really, really love that. So, what are some of the ways that perhaps you stumbled along the way? What are some of the things that did not work for you? Because I know if you've had a long, long journey, that we've all tried many things that just did not work for us.
Well, I think the first thing was I was so miserable in my state and felt so badly about myself that I came at everything from that negative sort of
Mm,
backward place. So I'm bad and everything about me must be wrong. So I've got to, just throw it out and start over. I can't find any place to begin that I can like about myself. Forget love.
mm,
I can't even find a place to begin where I can really say, "Oh, I like that about me." And so I got hooked on the idea that I had to call everything good, pretend everything was something that it was not,
mm,
and just started creating incredible mountains under the carpet. Everything got swept under the rug. Oh, I'm unhappy. Well, that must be because I'm not a very good person or I'm not deserving of this happiness, but
mm,
I don't want to look at that. So let me just push that under the rug and we're going to pretend that we're so happy and delighted. And isn't it wonderful the way that we're living this life? That was all false, had no substance to it, and was certainly not moving me forward in any direction
mm,
that was going to do anything other than continue to make me unhappy. So, I have no idea what I was told. All I remember is what I took away from whatever the people that were sharing it with me were messaging. And I know I took away I'm not that great, and if I let anybody know that I'm not that great, they'll really dislike me more than they probably already do. So I've just got to be the helper in the room, and I have to pretend everything is wonderful, and I should never, ever complain because I've complained in the past, and look what that has done. So I created this false narrative, this sort of false positive reality that I tried to function within. And it was actually more constricting than when I was deeply negative
mm,
because I couldn't be real. Now I had to sort of be the plastic Barbie doll because anything outside of this carefully constructed framework was going to make me shatter.
mm,
And so I was afraid to admit that anything couldn't be great because I had convinced myself that that meant if I said, gosh, things aren't going too well. I really need to do something about it. That was going to mean my whole world caved in,
mm,
that then everything was going to blow up and I would never have the resources to fix it. So that open wound that was sitting there on my skin was never addressed. I would just put something on top of it
like
and
a
pretend
band-aid.
that I
Yeah.
didn't have a skin-eating virus eating away under there. So, what happens? Well, if you shove enough stuff under the rug, eventually the stuff starts eating away at whatever is underneath it, and the whole framework falls apart. So, one of the things that I learned and need to share is you have to tell the truth. You've
Mm,
got to look at where you are and acknowledge it. You have
mm,
to be able to say, this feels terrible. I don't want this. The trick is you can't stay there. So you can't every day, this feels terrible. I don't want this. This feels terrible. I don't want this. Or you will activate the law of attraction to bring that to you. So,
mhm,
what you have to do instead, which I thought I was doing and wasn't, what you have to do instead is identify what isn't wanted. Be really clear. This is what I need to change. This is why I want it to change. This is what I want instead. And then, as soon as you identify, this is what I want instead, now you know the direction that you want to put all of your energy in.
mm,
So we've got to remember that law of attraction never goes on vacation. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't take a sick day. It is always operating, but it doesn't speak your language. It speaks vibration. So if you're blah, 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 everything's wonderful, and you are seething with resentment or shame or blame or guilt or any of those negative emotions, law of attraction is going to only be able to interact with the blame, the shame, the resentment, the negativity.
with the
And
actual energy that you are creating
yes,
underneath, because the mask isn't creating an energy. This is just like you could put a mask on and you're still going to be mad or sad or angry or whatever, happy underneath, right? But when
absolutely.
I've always found that when we wear those masks, at least for me, it feels really uncomfortable because then I'm basically telling myself if I don't show up like this, nobody would connect with me.
Yes,
So I'm basically telling myself I'm not worthy of connection, of authentic connection. And that is just like reinforcing even more of that negative self talk in the stories we tell ourselves about it, which then fuels this vibration, is what you're saying. And that's what the universe that's how the universe talks, right? Is that's the
absolutely.
communication.
You walk into the
Interesting.
room, I'm not worthy, but I've got this mask of I'm all everything in
Hmm.
place. And then you wonder why no one really is drawn to you. Well, it's because we interpret through the vibration, just like the law of attraction is doing at the same time. And so we either repel or attract what we desire. So
Mm,
get it on the inside. Know what you want, but you can't put what you want in competition with what feels bad. And if you haven't acknowledged what feels bad, it's always going to be the primary energy creator.
mm,
So acknowledge it and then release it. All right, I see you. I'm aware you're there, but I am taking my attention away from you
right. I'm not giving
on
you my
purpose.
energy.
Yes, it's I am deliberately choosing not to focus on you because I've had enough of you. So
Hmm.
all of my attention, all of my time and focus and emotion is going to be invested on this thing that I do want
I
because
love
I
this.
no more energy can be spent on what isn't wanted. There's only so much energy that we have. If we try to split it, we just go in a circle.
Mm,
So either go down the track of, I hate the world and experience what that's like until you get tired of it, or go down the track of, I'm going to find what's right, even though some things are not going to feel good in my world,
Mm.
because what's right is ultimately what feels good, what brings me joy is ultimately the life that is going to bring me my greatest quality of life, my greatest ability to be me.
I love this because it reminds me of something I tell my clients is there's a difference between survival and thrival. And surviving is when we're focused on running away from something that is that negative force, right? Something that we want to avoid and we're running away from it. And thriving is when we're focused on something and we're running towards it, which is
Yes,
a much
run
different energy,
toward.
isn't
Yes,
it?
run toward. And we've got to remember it actually is more difficult to push something away or to force it than it is just to flow with it. When you are in that aligned state, you feel so much better. You are so much more expanded. You are so open to receiving insight and direction and guidance and support, so that you're just effortlessly moving towards your goal. But when you are pushing against or forcing something, you're contracted, you don't have any external support or internal support because you're refusing to receive it, and it's you yourself and you that is trying to do this very difficult thing when it's not even necessary.
Yeah, I've been there many, many times,
I
I'm
mean, that was
sure.
most of my life. Was I have to push, if I'm not working hard, if I'm not really straining and struggling and
Sacrificing,
yes,
right? It
yes,
was always like,
yo,
I'll be
yes,
happy when I get there. I'll be
yes,
happy when I
yes.
get there. And I got to all the places I wanted to go, and I was not happy because I didn't bring happy with me. Like you're saying, I had the vibration of struggle and sacrifice and, just grunt working it through and white knuckling my discipline, my self discipline, and it felt hard. But many of us were taught that something's not worth it unless it's hard. And that was something that I've had to really unlearn in my life, that it doesn't have to feel hard. I can actually feel happy on the way. I don't have to wait to be happy, because if I wait to be happy, chances are that day is not coming, because by the time I have that goal done, I already have 3 more goals that I'm working on. So I never stop to be happy, right?
Absolutely. And what I have learned is that happy along the way, joy, filled with joy, appreciating every moment along the way, not only makes the goal come more quickly, but makes the journey toward the goal enjoyable. And
Hmm.
that was something that I would never have allowed myself to experience in the past, because I was taught that meant the goal really wasn't worth pursuing. If
Hmm.
it's not difficult, if there's not some struggle, if you don't really have to work hard, well, then you're not doing enough. And that is really not good teaching.
Right.
That is not at all a way that you want to live your life. And I really
Y-
think, we are advised through so many different philosophical teachings to be childlike. If you go to a park and you watch a child or children playing together, everything brings them delight. The dogs, the butterflies, the birds, the flowers, the breeze, the who knows what they find, the weeds, everything brings them delight. And they have moments of disappointment, of sorrow, of negativity, until something wonderful happens by, a butterfly flies by, or something different catches their eye, and they're done with it. We've got to adopt that same pattern, always looking for what wonderful new thing we're going to find, instead of holding on to the thing that didn't work.
mm,
We've got to recognize There are going to be more things that don't work than there will be things that do work when we're on our way to a goal.
Mm-hmm.
So what? What are you learning from this thing that didn't work that will help you when you get to the goal or is furthering you on your journey to the goal? And Thomas Edison was the one that really summed it up, I think, the best when he said he finally was successful in creating a light bulb, an electric light bulb, and he makes the announcement, and a reporter said to him, and he had tried 199. This was his 100th try. The success
Yeah,
was
I think it
number
might even been
100.
more than that. Yeah, it was crazy. The amount of, he's like, I found all these ways it didn't work.
Yes, yes. And the reporter said, how did it feel to fail 99 times? And he was able to say, I never failed. I
Mm.
learned 99 ways not to make a light bulb.
Yeah.
And if we walk that way, if we understand that everything that is coming into our awareness brings with it something that will help us get to the next place of awareness, then we never have to have sad, lonely, lost, and confused days. We
Mm.
just have days that are filled with joy and days that may be filled with a little less joy.
Yeah, I always tell my clients that failure is part of mastery. There's no one who has mastered something by doing everything perfect the first time. Like that's just not how we learn things, right? Just like Edison, we have to find all the ways that it doesn't work sometimes before we find that way that works. And I think that in this instant gratification culture that we have, it feels like there's a lot of people where they try once and then they're like, oh, it didn't work out, must not be for me. And it's like, or there's some growth to do, right? There's some growth to do, and the growth can be uncomfortable, right? We can start questioning our worth or whether or not we're, good enough for whatever it is that we're moving into. And that's going to be uncomfortable. But as you were saying, it's not about putting a mask on and pretending. It's about admitting to ourselves, this is going to be hard. I can still find joy in it, or however I want to feel. I can still bring my intentions to the table. And I can know that it's going to be hard. There are hard parts of our journey. I mean, tying our shoes wasn't easy for everyone. Learning how to drive for some reason was a lot harder for me than I thought it would be. And so, like, failure and, not getting it right the first time is actually parts of the way that you're learning. That when things come up, you'll learn how to handle them in a new way or in a different way. Hi, I'm Christina, and I am your host of this series, and I wanted to offer you one little thing. The way that my clients find their midlife magic and mojo is by becoming intentionally aligned. You may not know what that means right now, but basically we find out what we truly, truly want underneath that vision board, and then we align our life, our choices, actions, everything with our intentions. Now you're wondering how that works? I can teach you more, but first you're going to need 3 unique perspectives in order to move forward. And I have put all 3 of those perspectives in a 3-video series called the Intentionally Aligned Foundation Series. And I want you to go grab it now because it is going to shift the way that you look at things. And that is part of the magic in midlife, is that we get to choose new ways. That series is listed below in the description, or you can go to christina-smith.com/IA series. I hope that you enjoy these 3. There's going to be questions and even some optional other materials that you can dive a little deeper into how we become intentionally aligned. It's all free, so go check it out. It's just more perspectives for you to create that midlife mojo. And I love what you say about, I think many of us have had paths where we've veered off and done something else. And that doesn't mean that we've failed at not going to, going down that path. It just means that we pivoted. I don't think that I was going to go to law school. I'm glad I didn't go to law school. I don't think I'd be very happy as a lawyer. But if I hadn't taken my political science degree, there's a lot of pieces of that and perspective and understanding, conflict that I take with me into my coaching now. So I have learned really important things. So some people could be like, your degree was such a waste, but it wasn't. There was things I needed to learn there that I use in a position where I don't need a degree. But I use those skills every day. And I think that's really lovely to think about. All of these things aren't mistakes. They're just ways that we gathered all the skills that we were going to need for whatever it is that we were really going to be doing.
I think let's give ourselves that understanding that we all come with innate intelligence. Whether you are educated formally or not, you have innate intelligence and you do have a compass. You do have an understanding of things that are going to feel good to you, that you have a natural affinity for, and things that really are not worth wasting your time. And it's okay to have hobbies in the things that you may not really have a natural affinity for, or you did not come here to share as your profession. But when you feel that drive towards something, it is there for a reason. It is a gift that you've brought to share, but, and it's so important that you said that, doesn't mean that you're never going to have a challenge on your way to the goal, even if you are particularly good at this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of professional athletes. There is not one of them, no matter how gifted they are, that skips out on practice every day because they think, oh, I'm good enough. They probably practice more than I could in 6 lifetimes because I'm not a professional athlete. So, but I am sure that I do something that they would not even bother with because we are not on the same trajectory in terms of what we've brought to experience and what we've brought to share. So it's okay if people don't do what you do. It's just important that you feel aligned with what you're doing. So that political science degree was a great example. You knew you were really interested in that aspect. You just didn't know how you were going to play it out. And
Mm-hmm.
here you are using it daily in a way that you might not have ever considered. So let your inner guidance, your intuition help you decide what direction is going to really feel good to you. And don't be so critical. It's always, I was always, oh, why am I doing this? What a stupid decision. I have had so many jobs throughout my lifetime and a pretty big, um, what's the word? Pretty big opportunity of education, a lot of different, studied in a lot of different areas. And I use absolutely everything when I am working with somebody. It's especially important to remember that if you're going to be in a field where you are working with people, no two people have had the same experience. So if you have a huge breadth of experience and a big knowledge bank to draw on, no matter how you got that knowledge, you're going to be so much more qualified to help that person than if you just said, well, I need to go step A, B, C, D, and you never step outside of that line.
Mm-hmm.
So I began as a teacher and I'm teaching now, but in completely different fields that appear to be unrelated. However, all of the skills that I employed while I was doing that job, I now am using in this job, but with more maturity and with more awareness and pulling on all of the other jobs that I have had in between or all of the other experiences. So I am a big believer and a big fan on just go in a direction and allow yourself to explore. If you're
Mm,
really tuned in to your guidance system, you will probably have less detours. But it doesn't matter because
mm,
the detours have as much to offer as the straight line, and often they have more.
mhm. Oh, yes. I completely agree. Because people say to me, "Well, you're such a great coach. You can your intuition is so good with people." And it's like, do you know how many traumatic detours I've had to take in order for my intuition to get so good?
I have
Because I
used
think
this skill.
and now I'm learning that it's because I can also feel the vibration of other people according to you. Like I know that there is something behind how I see things in people, and it's not just about judgment, it's about understanding how they work. But I I always thought it was just like I was picking up clues, but maybe I'm picking up this vibration is what you're saying is like I can feel the vibration that they're on and whether I want to connect or whether I don't, or how I want to connect, in what way. So
And
that's
it
pretty
might be good
interesting.
just to think of it as a map. It's like we all are a map, each one of
Mm,
us. And some maps feel as though they are something that you want to navigate, and other maps just look like they might be scary terrain. And it's
mhm,
okay. You're not going to like everyone, and you really don't need to be obligated to anyone. Allow yourself, again, to be in that place of flow. We've said that a lot, but it's really important. Be in that place where you are allowing yourself to stay in the state of joy and
mm,
find ease on your journey instead of the place where you're feeling very rigid and as though you have to force your way forward or into a situation. If
mm.
you're forcing, it's probably not the right place for you.
So I want to just quickly talk about how we take ourselves out of this flow, or I mean from our own experience. Of course you might know lots more on this than I am, but I just want people to be able to, like, what does it mean to take myself out of flow? For me, anytime I am seeking someone else's direct wisdom on how I step forward, looking for guidance is a different thing, but depending on other people to make up decisions for me, I automatically know that I'm going out of the flow because I'm no longer depending on myself. And so I am constantly, what do they think I should do? Right. Because that's how I grew up. My mother was always like, what will people think of you? So I've had to really tune out this voice that goes, well, what will people think of me? Because that automatically will take me out of the flow, especially when I feel like the thing might be judged by other people. What are some things that maybe take you out of the flow?
I think that's brilliant. And I think we need to look cultural influences, familial, social, religious institutions, all of these things. When we stop saying, what do I want? What
Mm,
feels good to me? And we start trying to put on that mask that says, it doesn't matter how I feel, it just matters how I'm perceived. That's when you know I'm going to cause myself so much grief by doing it this way that I'm going to be brave enough to walk into the room and just be me.
mm,
Often we do it when we feel insecure or unsure of ourselves. And so we
mm,
are looking for a way to sort of blend in or a way not to feel odd man out. There's a bit of rejection if we are going against the norm. And if you're not really firmly entrenched in you, it can be scary. And if it's
Mm.
too scary, I would advise that you find a hybrid. If it is too frightening for you to step out of your culture or your familial or your societal way of being, find ways that you can still express yourself within that.
Mm.
So let's say that your group has a specific way of dressing, almost a uniform. And so you would feel uncomfortable if you didn't follow the uniform. But you can add jewelry or a different kind of belt or perhaps different shoes that say something about you that don't cause the group to reject you completely. Or if you're really strong about this and you still feel committed to the group, you can just allow yourself to know who you are. Say, even though I've got this uniform on, I'm still the unicorn in the room. I think differently. I hold on to a different way of being, and I'm going to respect the uniform because I love these people or whatever your reasoning is, but I'm not going to allow them to change who I am. I'm still going to be me. So I think it's so important that you feel comfortable with you in the
Mm.
way that works for you, not in a
I
way that other people told you it's supposed to work for you.
Absolutely. And I like this idea of just starting small, whatever that is, because I do the same thing with affirmations. People used to come to me and be like, I hate affirmations. I don't want them. I think that they're all baloney. And I'm like, well, if you think they're baloney, you've been using the wrong affirmation. Because there's some people who are like, tell you that, oh, if you if you think that you could be a great speaker, then you should just say, I'm a great speaker. I'm a great speaker. But if I've stuttered in my life, or I know that I've made the mistake and done really bad speeches in my past, it's going to be really hard for me to say, I'm a great speaker with truth behind it. And I believe that affirmations that don't have truth behind it are phony, fake, whatever. I mean, we can't really connect. We're not connecting to the vibration of them, really. We're not fully taking them in if we don't believe them. And so, one thing that I've asked clients to do is, what if you could be open to seeing how you're a great speaker? Could that be possible? That, maybe you don't think you're a great speaker today, but you're open to seeing ways in which you could be, because that at least is keeping you, like you were saying earlier, focused on the direction that we want to go. Not like I'm going to make these mistakes and I'm going to stutter, but I'm going to focus on being a great speaker, and I'm going to put out that vibration, right? So that the universe or the divine can connect back to me and say, yes, we're going to show you ways that you can be a great speaker.
And I think it's so important that we just don't do a lot of wishful thinking that has no possibility of an action associated with it.
Mm.
So you could, using that idea of I stutter, what if you were to acknowledge that first? Even though I have stuttered in the past, I am really able to see myself as a public speaker
Mm.
or something along the, even though I've stuttered in the past, I'm excited about being able to speak in public. And then if that's too future focused, which can happen when we start gearing up, once that isn't doesn't feel so far out of reach, well, you know what? I used to now I'm stuttering. I used to stutter, but I'm a fabulous public speaker.
Mm.
As soon as you can get into that place of certainty, you want to get there.
Mm.
But I don't know how you get there if you're just doing, I hope so kind of
Mm.
acknowledgement. There's
Yeah.
got to be, I understand where I am. I'm not just blowing smoke saying that I want it to be someday, maybe, kind of, sort of.
Right. Maybe
We
I'll be
got
a
to know where
ballerina.
we are and where we want to go.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. So this has been a great conversation. I know that we can keep going on forever and ever and ever, and maybe we will another time. But today we have to close up. I really want to thank Dr. Marcia Martin for being here with us, and she has a little gift for us. So you want to tell us about your little gift that you offered?
Absolutely. As I said, I work with the angels in the energetic realm all of the time. They are my go to helpers. And I think oftentimes people don't realize how close that help can be. And they also may not realize all of the ways in which they are resisting the help.
Mm.
So I'm giving away an ebook, which is 11 ways in which we resist angelic assistance. And of course, what you can do instead of being in that rigid resisting place so that you can be in the flowing expanded place.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
all you have to do is go to my website and follow the link
The link will
below
be
this
down there somewhere.
the broadcast, or go to my website, and it is MM for Marcia Martin, mmhearthealer.com.
Mm. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing all of this beautiful information. I know that I've learned some things today. I'm going to be paying attention to vibrations and other people's vibrations now that I know a little bit more about what I'm picking up. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me. It was wonderful to get to talk about all of the ways in which we derail ourselves and how easy it is to get right back on there and keep going. I think
Yeah.
that's what I want people to remember more than anything is, so what? You fell off. So what? You made a bad decision. So what? You made a wrong turn. Just correct and move on.
Yeah.
Keep what you learned and move on so that you don't have to keep making the same wrong turn, but let go of the shame and the blame and the resentment or the guilt or whatever it
Mm.
is that's coming up as quickly as you can, because you deserve to win. And the way to
Mm.
win is to keep going and keep honoring all that you are.
Mm. This whole conversation has reminded me of a really great quote from Daniel Laporte that says, "Radical transformation starts with the radical acceptance of what is," so that we can start telling ourselves the truth, like you were saying earlier, start telling the truth, so that we can be honest with where we are and jump off from there, because that's where we're being authentic, and that's when we can really connect with the energy of the divine or the universe or whatever your word is for it, podcasters. Thank you so much for tuning in, podcasters, and we will talk again next week. Hey, one more thing. When we are all more confident and full of self-love, we can act more intentionally and mindfully. What would a world like that look like? I want to know. One way that you can help me with this vision is to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast wherever you listen to it. It helps more than you know, and it's just a few clicks to help me create a more beautiful world. And as always, remember to be gentle with your humanness.